freshly squeezed orange juice, scones that the kids made last night, little hors d'oeuvres. They made a little CD with music on it for Mom. They had all this stuff laid out. And one of my children said, "Hey, what are we going to do for Dad next month?" To which one of my other children said, "Just get him a can of Coke." So I got that going for me. I got that to look forward to next month. Happy Mother's Day. Who are my history nerds in here? Come on, raise your hands. I'm a history. I know you're a history nerd. Come on, who are the history geeks? Yeah, I know. All right, this past week, May 5th, the anniversary of something really big. What was it? Huh? I walked right into that one, didn't I? Walked right into it, man. Oh, man. What? May 5th, 1961, 53 years ago. Wow. May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American in space. No big deal, right? Alan Shepard took a very short suborbital flight outside of Earth's atmosphere. He did not orbit the planet, but he did become the first American in space. A month before that, April 12th, 1961, a cosmonaut named Yuri Gagarin became the first person to orbit the Earth. A full month before we even made it into space. The Soviet Union was winning the space race. The Soviet Union was winning the Cold War. Kids were practicing getting under their desks at school to protect them from a nuclear blast. It was against this backdrop that our president, President John F. Kennedy, did something slightly out of the ordinary. JFK addressed a full session of Congress on May 25th, 1961. Now, we all know that the president every year addresses the full Congress. It's called this is going to be a history/civics lesson today. The State of the Union address. JFK had just given the State of the Union just a few months ago, but he chose again to address the full Congress. He decided that that was something that he needed to do, and here are the remarks that he opened his speech with. The Constitution imposes upon me the obligation from time to time to give Congress information of the State of the Union. While this has been traditionally interpreted as an annual affair, this tradition has been broken in extraordinary times. These are extraordinary times. We face an extraordinary challenge. Our strength as well as our conviction have imposed upon this nation the role of leader in freedom's cause. No role in history could be more difficult or more important. This is our conviction for ourselves. That is our only commitment to others. No friend, no neutral, no adversary should think otherwise. We are not against any man or any nation or any system except as it is hostile to freedom. Nor am I here to present a new military doctrine bearing one name or aimed at one area. I am here to promote the doctrine, the freedom doctrine. At the beginning of his address to Congress, JFK sets out his role, the role of this nation as he saw it. He set out the role as being the leader in freedom's cause. He said because of what we were given, because of what we've been blessed with, because of our strength, it had to be us. We had to be the leader in freedom's cause, and that we would stand for freedom no matter what the odds. No matter if we were losing the space race, no matter if we were losing the Cold War, we would stand for freedom. And we would promote what he referred to as the freedom doctrine. Would be in the furtherance of freedom, both for Americans and for all the people of the world. This speech was given during a time in history when communism and socialism in the form of the Soviet Union was spreading across Eastern Europe. It was spreading to the shores of America, only a few hundred miles away in Cuba. The Cold War was in full swing, and the world viewed this as democracy versus communism, capitalism versus socialism. It was freedom versus tyranny. And here in his open remarks, Kennedy sets the stage for everything else he was about to say in the speech. Everything he was about to ask Congress to do for him was in the furtherance of freedom. All the initiatives that he was about to announce were to further freedom. And his mission is to defeat communism. Throughout this speech, JFK continues to call Congress to action. And then at the end of his speech, he makes a bold and unprecedented statement. He sets his sights and the sights of the nation on a goal of such magnitude that no president before or since has ever made such a bold statement. He said, finally, if we are to win the battle that is now going on around the world between freedom and tyranny, the dramatic achievements in space have made clear to all of us the impact of this adventure on the minds of men everywhere who are attempting to make a determination on which road they should take. I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before the decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. The President calls Congress and the nation to action. And he sets what seems to be an impossible goal to send a man to the moon. He wanted an American to be the first person to set foot on the moon. We were behind. We were losing the space race. Some would say we were 5 years behind the Soviets in space technology. And here President Kennedy says, we're going to the moon. We're leaders in freedom. We're going to do it first. And the purpose of this, what he called his adventure, was to influence the minds of men who were trying to determine what path they should take. To lead them to freedom. He was trying to influence their minds. JFK believed that a nation of free people could accomplish anything they set their minds to better than a nation of people who were ruled by tyranny and fascism. He believed that free people would rise to the occasion if given a mission. And he knew that the greater the achievement, the more influence they could have to help the world embrace the path of freedom. And not to force this doctrine on them, but to lead them. Well, as you know, July 20th, 1969, his goal was realized less than a decade from the time he threw down the gauntlet. When a man named who? Neil Armstrong. Very good. Anyone? Neil Armstrong stepped off the lunar module and onto the moon's surface. And since that time, no other nation has gone to the moon. We're it. A group of free people who set their mind to something can accomplish it. Free people can achieve great things that can influence those who are attempting to make a determination on which road they should take. What do you think was going on back at NASA headquarters when the president stood up before Congress and the nation and said, hey, I want to go to the moon in less than 10 years. What do you think was going on back at NASA? What? Do you think the next morning they all showed up at work, they got in a conference room and they said, hey, listen, the president wants to go to the moon, so we got to talk about some things. First thing we need to talk about is, hey, what color do you think we ought to paint the rocket? Should it be black and white? Should it be red, white, or blue? Should we have USA vertical or horizontal? You think that's what they talked about? Do you think they said, hey, should the suits be white with a patch on the right arm or the left arm? Or better yet, you know what? Maybe we should make them orange suits because Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis really get washed out when they wear white. Maybe we should go to orange flight suits. Do you think that's what they talked about? Of course not. That's ridiculous. You know what they had to talk about? How can we establish a new solid engine rocket booster that can break the Earth's atmosphere? How do we get a navigational system that we can bring these people, once we get them to the moon, that we can bring them back? They had technology. You know, Little fun fact for you. The PC you had in your house 10 years ago, the PC you had in your house 10 years ago had more computing power than the Apollo 11 spaceship did. They were going to the moon on a tin can with a pocket calculator. Right? I mean, that's what they were dealing with. But JFK believed that free people could accomplish great things if they set their minds to it. Back at NASA, they weren't talking about paint on the rocket or flight suits. It wasn't critical path to the mission that JFK had put before them. It wasn't critical. Free people can achieve great things that can influence those who are attempting to make a determination on which road they will take if, and only if, they focus on the mission at hand. Do you see where I'm starting to go with this morning, folks? When God's Son walked this earth, when he walked among mankind, it was extraordinary times. The blind were healed, the lame walked. But Rome occupied Judah. Israel was an occupied country. They weren't free to govern themselves. They were at the mercy of the Romans. And it was against this backdrop that Jesus did something a little unordinary. Jesus went home. Jesus went to the synagogue in Nazareth. Jesus wasn't one of these guys that went home on the weekends, like some college kid, you know. He didn't go home to do his laundry and hang out with his friends. Jesus wasn't exactly the most popular guy in Nazareth. He wasn't always accepted there very well, but we find here in Luke chapter 4, Jesus has gone home to Nazareth, and he's gone to the synagogue to address the people he finds there. And this is what he says. Jesus traveled to Nazareth where he'd grown up. On the Sabbath day, he went to the synagogue, as he always did, and he stood up to read. The book of Isaiah the prophet was given to him. He opened the book and found the place where it is written, "The Lord has put his Spirit in me, because he appointed me to tell the good news to the poor. He sent me to tell the captives they are free, and tell the blind that they can see again. God sent me to free those who have been treated unfairly and to announce the time when the Lord will show his kindness." Jesus uses the writings of Isaiah to state his purpose in the world, what his role in this world was going to be, and how he intended to impact this world. He started out by saying, God has put his Spirit in me. He has blessed me richly. He has given me strength. He has given me resources. And for that reason, I am going to promote the good news. I am going to be the person who is the leader in the freedom doctrine. I am going to lead people in captivity, the captivity of sin and death. I'm going to lead them to freedom. Those who are mistreated by the world, I'm going to free them from their physical ailments. And I am going to herald in a time of God's rich love and his full grace to all people. And not just for one nation or for one people, but freedom for all people. Jesus' ministry on this earth was extraordinary. He was the leader in the ministry of the freedom doctrine, a doctrine that freed us from the chains that weighed us down. I love Galatians 1:4. He gave himself to free us from our sins and free us from this evil that we live in, because that's the way God had planned it from the beginning. Jesus came to break the chains, and now our message should be one of freedom, a message of freedom from sin and death. And everything we do should be in furtherance of this freedom doctrine. Before ascending to heaven, Jesus made a bold statement. He called his people to action. Much like JFK called a nation to action, Jesus calls his people to action. He set his sights and the sights of those who would follow him on a goal of historic magnitude, a goal of enormous breadth and scope, and a goal that we don't have to leave the planet to achieve. Jesus didn't say, I want to go to the moon. Jesus said, I want to go to the world. I want to go to the world. I'm sending you to the world. Then Jesus came to them and said, all power is given to me, so go make followers of all the people of the world. Baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach them to obey everything I've taught you, and I will be with you always, even till the end of the age. We didn't have to go to the moon. We just have to go to the world. And we have better technology today to do it too. And what was the reason for this adventure? Because free people, people who have been made free, can do great things to influence those people who are trying to determine what path to take. A road that leads to freedom and life, or a road that leads to tyranny and death eternal. There are people out there right now standing at the crossroads. There are people right now trying to determine what path they should take in their life. There are people looking for hope. They're looking for direction. They're looking for freedom, the freedom that we've already been given. I love what's said in Titus chapter 2, verse 14. He gave himself for us so he might pay the price to free us from all evil and to make us pure people who belong to him. People who are always what? Wanting to do good deeds, wanting to be on the mission, wanting to be going out into the world and taking the freedom doctrine to those who need it the most. People blessed with freedom should rise to the occasion when presented with a mission of freedom. And to show God's love through a life lived influencing the world to embrace freedom, not forcing them to accept freedom, but leading them to freedom. I will say it again, free people can achieve great things that can influence those who are attempting to make a determination of which road they should take. Free people called to a global mission. So here we are. We're at mission control. In Houston, we have a problem. The problem is, as the world looks at Christianity, when they look at all the groups that fall under the big umbrella of Christianity, they have a couple complaints about us. One of them is, hey, they're a bunch of self-righteous hypocrites. Duly noted. We're working on that one. You know what the other thing they say is? You guys don't agree on anything. You guys do nothing but bicker with each other. You're bickering amongst churches about why do you do that? Why do you do this? I don't do this. You don't do that. We're off mission. Thank God that here in the Edgewood family, we don't get off mission. Thank God we don't do that. I want you to think about all the stuff that goes on here at Edgewood, all the discussions you get into and all the debates you get into and all the decisions that are made. And I want you to think and ask yourself, how much of that church stuff has to do with the lost? Ouch! How much of that church stuff really focuses on going out into the world on mission? I'm going to tell you something, a lot of stuff that we get mired down with, it's just paint on the rocket. That's all it is. It doesn't get us any closer to the sinners. It's just this noise around the outside that swirls. Why do we move the communion table from the front to the back? Why do we need a praise team? Why do we cut the trees down out front? Why does Jay wear a suit when he preaches? Why does Jay stop wearing a suit? He doesn't wear a suit anymore when he preaches. Why is he doing that? Why aren't they clapping during the song? Why are they clapping during the song, right? Seriously, that's paint on the rocket, guys. What are we doing here? We got to get back on mission. We got to ignore the noise. Hey, listen, did they have to decide what color to paint the rocket? Yeah. But you know what? Someone said, hey, we'll paint it black and white. Fine, paint it black and white. I have work to do over here. I have a mission to accomplish here. Hey, we're going to go with orange flight suits. Go with orange flight suits. See if I care. I've got a rocket to get to the moon. We've got people to reach. We've got good deeds to do. We have great achievements that have yet to be made, achievements that will influence people to take the path of freedom over the path of death. So let's get started. Let's take it to the world. If not us, who? If not now, when? I say that a lot, don't I? If not us, who? If not now, when? Go to the world. This week, make it your objective to get above the noise, get above the paint on the rocket. Look at one person this week and say, you know what? I've got a better way for that person. And I'm going to do something extraordinary for that purpose, or to that person, just for the sole purpose of guiding them, leading them, influencing them to take the right path. Go today. Pick one person. Let's all stand and sing.